I can make it work. You say it before checking your account, before the waiter comes back with the menus, before the group even sits down and someone says, "Oh, this place looks amazing," and you're already scanning prices from the bottom up because you already know your number before you know what you want to eat. 22 years old, trying to look relaxed while quietly converting the weekend trip into work hours in your head. $43 is 3 hours. 280 is a full shift and a half. You smile when someone says, "Let's just split it evenly." You say, "Yeah, totally." You thought you were buying belonging. You weren't. This is that story. You share an apartment with 2 people from college. The walls are thin. You meal prep on Sundays not because you read about it anywhere, but because it's the only way the math works. Take home $1,360 a month. After rent and utilities, $620 for everything else. You know this number the way you know your own name. Without calculating, just know. The friend group is 7 people. Same school, different jobs now. One night at a bar, someone orders a round without asking. 7 drinks. You smile when yours arrives. Later you check the balance in the bathroom, standing at the sink, not the stall. Phone tilted under the faucet light so nobody walking in can see the screen. $31 gone from the account you were trying to hold above zero until Thursday. You put the phone in your pocket. You walk back out. You laugh at the next thing someone says. Nobody knows. That's the performance. Not lying, just performing okay so consistently that okay starts to feel like the truth. The group picks places everyone can do, has conversations everyone can follow, talks about jobs, not careers, rent, not mortgages, what's on their phone, not what they're building. There is real love in this, real history, the kind you cannot manufacture with someone you met 2 years ago through work. These people knew you before you knew yourself. But underneath the warmth, here's what the group also is. A ceiling, not visible, not intentional, not anyone's fault. But when nobody around you has moved, motion feels like betrayal. Staying still feels like loyalty, and loyalty at 22 is the most powerful social force you have ever encountered. So you stay. You say the 4 words when you need to. The performance continues. Call it the comfort tax, not money. Permission. The permission to want something different. The permission to become someone the room doesn't recognize yet. You pay it without knowing it has a name. Every group has a ceiling. The ceiling feels like belonging until the day it feels like a lid. You make more money now, not dramatically. $14,000 more before taxes. After taxes, it arrives as about $760 extra a month. You feel this. The way you sleep differently on the 15th when rent is covered and something is still left. But the group is pulling upward too. 3 of the 7 have found traction. They suggest different places without meaning anything by it. You say the 4 words. One Sunday in April, you open the Notes app. No emotion. Just tired of the vague feeling that something doesn't add up. You list everything from the last 12 months. Every dollar that went toward maintaining the social fiction that you're all still in the same financial place. The round you bought when it wasn't your turn. The birthday dinner. Cheapest option, $41 before tip. The weekend lake house, split evenly, your share $280. You remember eating pasta 3 nights in a row that same week. You didn't connect them at the time. You added up, $2,890. That same month, you turned off your banking notifications for the lake house weekend. Not by accident. On purpose. Because seeing the number update in real time would have made it impossible to pretend you were fine with being there. $2,890. And you'd muted your own account to spend it. At your income level, that number is structural. The difference between having a cushion and not having one. Between being able to absorb 1 bad month and not being able to. This is the friendship tax. Not what you spend on people you love. What you spend to maintain the fiction that everyone at the table is still in the same financial zip code. Nobody invoices you. Nobody intends it. Around 26, you briefly consider opening a second credit card. Not for anything specific. Just to have more buffer. just so the social math is less visible in the account you actually use. You don't do it, but you spend 4 days thinking about it. That's worth noting, not as a confession, as data about how much energy was going into the performance before you even knew you were performing. You don't change anything yet, but you've done the arithmetic, and arithmetic, once done, is permanent. The friendship tax is the most expensive thing you pay every year. It never appears on any statement. It compounds against you anyway. The friendship with Dara ends over about 9 months. Not dramatically. No argument, no betrayal. Texts take longer to answer, plans made and quietly unmade. The effort stops being mutual in a way that's hard to describe and impossible to ignore. One Tuesday evening she texts the group, something casual, a photo, a joke, a plan for the weekend. 6 people respond within the hour. You respond 40 minutes later. She reacts to everyone else's message with an emoji. She leaves yours on read. You stare at that for longer than you should. 3 months after that, she stops responding to you directly. Not hostile, just done. The door closes with almost no sound. Then at dinner with the old group, 2 months later someone says it. You've changed. Not unkindly, but not as a compliment either. Somewhere in between. The kind of sentence that has a second meaning underneath it that everyone at the table hears but nobody acknowledges. You say, I think you're right. And you don't apologize for it. That's new. Later you run back through 3 years of history looking for the moment you said something wrong. The moment it started becoming something other than what it was. You don't find a single moment, you find a pattern. Every time you grew, the dynamic had to renegotiate. The Vegas no, the Sunday course, the slow shift in how you talked about weekends, about money, about what you wanted the next 5 years to look like. 2 different speeds. Long enough and it wears something down, so you do something you've never done with an ended friendship before. The exit interview. Alone. Paper and pen. Not about who was wrong, about where the structural incompatibility actually lived, where the directions stopped running parallel. Here's what the exit interview teaches you. A friendship is not just emotional, it is directional. 2 people can care about each other completely and still be pulling toward lives that make sustained closeness structurally impossible. You stop measuring friendship by how good it feels. You start measuring it by how honest it is. When a friendship ends, don't just grieve it. Interview it. The ending carries information the relationship could never give you while it was still running. You notice something in your phone one evening. You've started adding context labels to contacts, not for everyone, just for some. Chris, Kellerman Project. Mina, met through Owen. James, referral. March workshop. The old contacts have no labels, just names, because the name is enough. You know everything a label would say and 20 years beyond it. This is contact gravity. Your phone has been stratifying itself without you directing it. You notice something else. 3 people in your contacts have texted you in the last 6 months only when they were between jobs. Every single time. Nothing in between. Silence, then a message, then silence again once something worked out. You check the timestamps. You're not wrong. That's not a judgment, it's information. About what the relationship actually is versus what you assumed it was. Around 31, a new circle starts forming. Not by design. By project. You take on work bigger than you've done before. You find people with skills you need. One through a professional group you joined, mostly out of curiosity, and nearly quit after the second meeting because everyone seemed to be performing confidence they hadn't earned yet. You almost don't go to the 3rd meeting. You're tired. It's a Tuesday. You go because you'd already paid the annual fee and you were raised by people who don't waste things they've paid for. That's the reason. Not vision, not intention, just the sunk cost of a fee. That 3rd meeting is where you meet Amara. She handles a piece of work you've never been good at. You bring her in on a project. She delivers. Then, after it closes, she sends a note. Not a thank you, a question. Walk me through your pricing logic. She's learning, but in explaining it to her, you hear yourself out loud for the first time. Your own assumptions, articulated. The structure underneath the number that you've never had to say out loud because nobody has ever asked you to. You explain it for about 4 minutes, then you stop, because you've just heard something in your own explanation that doesn't hold. A gap between what you charge and what someone with your track record should be charging. Not small, structural. You didn't see it until you said it out loud to someone who had no interest in flattering you. Not from one conversation that changes everything. Not from a mentor who says the right thing at the right dinner. From accumulated proximity to people whose assumptions about what's possible are different from yours. You are near different thinking long enough that it starts to become your thinking. Not a moment. A pressure. Slow, invisible, and then all at once. You don't find the people who change your trajectory. You build something near them and pay attention. The shift happens in the margins, not in the center. You've been running a number in your head since about 33. How much has honesty been worth? In real dollars, not abstractions. Measurable outcomes that trace directly to a specific honest conversation. At 35, you sit down and calculate it. The Amara conversation at 31 led to repricing your primary service category. Measurable additional revenue over 3 years, conservatively, $41,000. A conversation at 33 with someone who told you, without being asked, that a proposal you were excited about had a structural flaw you'd missed. Saved you from a commitment that would have cost roughly 30% of a year's income. A conversation in early 36. You asked someone whose judgment you trusted whether your current direction was right or just comfortable. The answer was uncomfortable. You sat with it for 6 weeks. Made a change that felt like a step backward. That change now accounts for roughly 40% of your current revenue. Total measurable value of honest conversations over 4 years. Somewhere north of $90,000. Not from a network. Not from connections. From honesty. Call it the honest friend return. The financial yield of relationships built on accuracy instead of comfort. It doesn't appear on any balance sheet, but it compounds with the same indifference as interest on a debt you're not watching. Then September, 37. A friend since you were 19. Not the closest, the oldest. He needs money. He says the word loan. You both understand it's not a loan. You sit with the phone for a long time. You think about the last time, 3 years ago. You said yes because you couldn't imagine saying no to someone who knew you before any of this existed. The money went somewhere you never fully understood. The friendship went quiet afterward, not hostile, quiet. You say no this time, clearly, not harshly. You offer your time instead. A real conversation. Saturday, his side of town. He doesn't respond for 6 weeks. The no that costs you the most is never the one that costs you money. It's the one that costs you history. 19 years of knowing someone, the version of you that existed before the building started. When he calls back, something between you has changed. Not disappeared. Recalibrated. There's an honesty in it now that politeness had been preventing. You know where you stand with each other. But you sit with the 6 weeks of silence and you feel it. The loneliness of being between. Far enough forward that the old map doesn't work. Not far enough that the new one fully makes sense. No good name for this place. No shortcut through it. Honest friends don't give you answers. They give you better questions. And better questions compounded over years are worth more than almost anything else on the balance sheet. Your phone has 912 contacts. Most have context labels. The person and who they are to you in some functional sense. But some are just names, no label, no context, just a first name and the complete certainty that no additional information is needed. 6 names without labels. Within those 6, 3 who know the actual number. Not your salary, the real number, net worth, total. What it earns, what you owe, the full picture. Including the months that didn't work and the decisions made from ego instead of judgment. The deal at 38 that cost 14 months of sleep. The year you were difficult to be around and you knew it and couldn't seem to stop. 3 people with all of it. The first has been in your life since you were 21. She was working the same kind of uncertain job you were. You have watched each other build from almost nothing across 2 decades. The financial gap between you is real. Neither of you pretends it doesn't exist. It has never once changed how she speaks to you. She told you something around year 12 that you still think about. I don't need you to be the version that has everything figured out. I need you to be the version that calls me when something isn't working. You have called her when things weren't working more times than you'd like to count. She has always picked up. The second and third arrived in the building years. Both started in the outer circle. Both became something else through years of honesty, holding at every level without breaking. Here's the test. The only one that matters: can this person see you at your worst? Not the failing version, the small version, the petty, uncertain, ungenerous version that lives underneath the competence. And stay. Not just stay. Stay without filing it, without using it later, without the subtle change in how they treat you afterward. That version of you. Has this person seen it and let it go? If yes, that's the list. The list is 3. You are 42 years old. You used to think that was a failure of sociability, a sign that something in you was closed or difficult or simply not enough. Now you understand it is the most honest number you own. The inner circle is not the people who've known you longest. It's the people who've seen you clearly and stayed anyway. The ones who make both. They are not replaceable at any price. Sunday morning, 7:12 a.m. You go through the phone on the first Sunday of every month, not checking messages, cleaning the contact list, updating labels, noting which relationships have shifted. 40 minutes, coffee. No urgency. You get to the section where the unlabeled names live. The list has changed shape over 23 years. It went up before it came down. The building years expanded it, then a slow compression toward what was real. Acquaintances who aged into something and then quietly back again. Professional contacts that briefly felt like more. Friendships that ran out of road without anyone declaring it officially. What remains is not a failure of sociability. It is the residue of accuracy. You scroll to 3 names. No labels, just names. You know what they sound like when they're pretending something is fine. You know what they're afraid of that they've never said directly. You know the version of them that exists at 7 in the morning before the day's performance has started. They know the same about you. Your phone lights up. A name on the screen. No message yet. She's typing. 7:14 on a Sunday morning is a real conversation starting. You know this from 20 years of knowing her. You pick up the phone. You were 22 years old the first time you checked your balance in a bar bathroom before ordering. The first time you muted your own bank account to get through a weekend. The first time you said I can make it work to something that wasn't working. At 22, it sounded responsible. By 45, you understand it was fear. The distance between those two things. That's the whole story. The comfort tax and the friendship tax and the exit interviews and the contact gravity and the honest friend return and the 6 weeks of silence and the 3 names without labels and the long, quiet, unglamorous work of figuring out who was actually there. The performance got quieter. The people who stayed when you stopped performing, they're the ones on the screen right now. She's still typing. You already know. You'll pick up. You always pick up for the ones without labels.